if we expect that of our world champions, then that should filter right down for everybody in the sport. So if you are doing a club rally and you're running, last car on the road and you have a puncture or unfortunately crash your car, you should still think like Oit Tanak. Because Oit could have easily said, I'm busy, I don't need to be dealing with kids, I'm trying to win a world championship, I'm having a debriefing, I'm probably getting a bollocking off the team manager. The last thing I need to be doing is PR. But he did it. So if there's a lesson in that, it's important. When you're nice, it's important, and that's how we'll get more people back into sports. Hello, folks, and welcome to this episode of Positive Motorsport Podcast. We're doing something a bit unusual today, which is to meet a guru from the internet. It's Bob Irvine. He's from up north, more north than me. He's up in Scotland. Me and Bob are going to have a quick chat about what we think is good and bad with modern motorsport media, whatever that covers. So, Bob, introduce yourself first of all.
Yes, I'm Bob Irvine, and I've been doing rally media for a while now. I've several hard copy magazines, YouTube channel. I do interviews, podcasts, stuff like that. And thank you for having me on, Kev. How are you?
I'm very well. We're actually in the middle of a winter episode to talk about ice driving with Conor Flynn. But we've interrupted that to just chat because we often do talk over the phone. We talk about what's good in motorsport, especially from an event organising point of view, and how motorsport are rallying, the passion we have for rallying is communicated. Like you say, you do a written magazine, and I've contributed towards that in the past, and I've watched your podcast. Just for anybody that doesn't know, just tell me a quick bit about your podcast and what you aim to do with your own online social media, Pondis Tash.
It's very honest. It's four guys that are very passionate about the sport. We do it once a week, and it's just an hour long, and it's possibly too honest. We're not afraid to say what we really feel, and very enjoyable. We've had terrific feedback. We've met people all over the UK that watch the show, so that's very encouraging. But I do other stuff as well, and I enjoy the serious podcasts. Anything to do with rallying, and I love it, Kev. Basically, I'm happy to talk about it, write about it, anything like that.
And I won't assume that anybody knows what I do, so I do a lot of PR work in motorsport as a speciality, and I'll work a lot with motor manufacturers. That's a lot to do with car sales training as well as the sport of rallying. So I come, if I dare say it, at quite a professional level. But over the years, I've done lots of big events. I've been involved in all sorts of different things with my competition career, which I think gives me a little bit of an edge when we're talking about communicating messages to the media, because I was trained from being a young rally driver with Peugeot as a manufacturer to how to deal with the public, we were trained with the press office. So from a very young age, this has been a profession for me to realise that my involvement with rallying, to earn any money, we had to work for marketing departments and therefore justify the budgets that are spent competing. And as part of that, we have to do good PR. And that's really very much where I come from. But what we're going to talk about today is really how event organisers treat us. Because on one level, if I dare say, you come more from the spectator's point of view, the man on the street, I come from the manufacturer's point of view. But in a way, we both clash with rally organisers, because rally organisers just want to get on with organising rallies, and I understand that, massively understand that. But we're there to sort of do promotion. And in some ways, if you don't have a direct link with the event organisers, it's pretty hard to do branding for the event on their behalf. Who are we to speak, on behalf of an event? Yet the reality of that is every spectator that experiences an event has a voice, and especially these days with social media, every single person, not only competitors, organisers, marshals, officials of any type, and all spectators, and actually even more relevant, people that don't necessarily want rallying in their area. So the general public that are exposed to motorsport and rallying get to communicate any message they want instantly across the internet and Facebook, especially with a mobile phone. So that brings us back down to when I started. you had to get an official press pass, you were working for an official manufacturer's PR agency, you went and signed on with the, you know, event organisers, and you roughly knew what the event organisers wanted you to do. So I'm used to that constraint. But there's a whole different world out there now, and I think in a way you're quite at the front of that, Bob, you and things you organise, because you're working very unofficially. It's just your own opinions, and you're spreading that across the internet. And this isn't a criticism, but you're spreading that across the internet, and it's anything goes. You're not bound by anybody. You know, it does to some level make it really interesting what you've got to say, but it's also the raw truth, and that's difficult for me to even contemplate from an organiser's point of view. But so in a way, what have you got to say about that? That, you know,
I think, I mean, I'm accredited as well, you know, for the MSUK. And it is quite difficult to get accreditation these days as well, Kev. You know, you're talking about the old days with press passes and stuff. You know, there's a procedure in place now. It's far tougher than it was, say, 5 years ago. Well, possibly since the Jim Clark accident, you know, things have taken off up here in the media, and they've really had to, you know, make everything safer. And it's far more difficult to get a media pass now. I mean, it wasn't long ago if you had a website. If you had a website, you could go on and sign on. Now, though, I've got the only rally magazine in the UK, you know, every month. So it's very warranted, I would suggest. But I absolutely agree with you about you're talking about spectators and stuff. Everybody's potentially media now when you think about it. It really is. And from a media point of view, the sky's the limit. As far as rallying is concerned, Kev, you know, you could have 7 or 8 of yous with phones standing on a straight each, and you could do half a stage and stream it live. The whole ball game's completely changed. But what you're saying about having a raw opinion, you know, an honest opinion, I stand by that, and I think it's a good thing. I think people respect. Maybe they don't respect everything we say, but I think they respect that we're honest enough to say, well, I don't agree with that. I don't like that. I don't like the way, you know, the competitors were treated at the weekend. I think the officials are incredible, right, on all these rallies. I organise as well. I organise a championship, Kev. So I've got that hat as well.
I want to clear up there that my point of view, definitely, you know, where I'm coming from with this, I don't have any solutions. I guess I'm just sharing some of my knowledge. But what I used to have as constraint isn't there anymore. And that's not necessarily good or bad, but the reality is it's changed and it's open. And anybody thinking that they can control media now as an event organiser is living in the wrong world. It's gone. The bubble's burst. The internet's out there. There's no point the MSA are trying to constrain anybody with a media tabard anymore, because that's just, that isn't the right solution, because putting more media tabards and trying to control those people with tabards isn't where the issues really lie. And there's no way you can control this anymore. You can't control every spectator with a mobile phone, but that means every spectator with a mobile phone is media. So just trying to make a tabard be more restrictive and using that as a negative, something to beat the media up, put the media in a set area and tell them what they can and can't do. Absolutely, I'm not saying that that's a thing that should happen. That's just, in my view, naive now, because the cat's out of the bag. The public are already out there. The people that don't like rallying, that you're driving past the house and doing whatever, they've already got their own mobile phones. If an accident happens, something good or bad, good news, the Perez Stratus, fantastic news, that was all over the internet with people on their mobile phones. The media people, as good a job as Special Stage did in getting that out, you know, instantly, there were still people, I was seeing footage quicker than they were doing it, because it was coming off the mobile phones of spectators. So spectators are media. The old school thought of you've got to have a tabard on, it's, you know, it's all them, they're the media, it's all their fault. That's a thing of the past. I'm not sure exactly if you want to control it. I don't think you can. I don't think you can control the public. You've just got to face facts. If a fight happens in the street now, the police are being instantly recorded. You know, it's out. There's no way you can control what used to be old school media. Therefore, you can have your own opinion. I've got a professional way of thinking about this, which is how we react in every other brand that we work with, which is that if there's noise out there about an event or a happening or a product, you just got to make sure there's enough positive noise that makes your positivity be the leading light. But you can't get rid of negativity. You just make sure that positivity is higher than the negative, but you can't get rid of the negative. So that's one thing I'd say.
Or maybe a wee bit blinkered. I think in this day and age, YouTube, special stage, I think that's where the world's heading now. Now, if I was a backer, say Shell will probably get more hits on YouTube watching a rally than they would getting an audience watching all the sport at 2 o'clock on a Saturday. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sad. It's really sad that mainstream television is not at the forefront now. But we're in a different world. And you talk about special stage. The job that they've done, if you look at the figures, the traction they get, it's definitely the sport's going. Now, your point was, how can we get rallying promoted better? I think for a start, drivers can promote themselves better. Okay, we're in an age now where it takes nothing to promote yourself, really, or a friend can do it. A child basically is probably better than that. Somebody our age, and if you look at one of the guys in the podcast, John, he's quite a pragmatic guy. We've spoken about this loads of times about the promotion in the sport, and he's always talking about drifting. He's saying these guys are like superstars in America now, in Japan, China, because of the way they promote themselves. They get hundreds and millions of clicks on their YouTube channels. We don't get that in rallying, not because rallying's rubbish, it's because they've not got that promotion. Folk are not realising the potential of self-promotion, I would say.
I'm absolutely, professionally, always proving the point, and I could go back to some of the Chris Ingram demographics. I could go into quite a lot of stuff that we were doing, but early days of doing some of Chris's promotions with Vauxhall, everything was more than justifiable from what we were doing on social media. So we were, professionally being paid to distribute those good news stories and share the message, and they were thrilled with what they could achieve on social media. So yeah, social media is completely taken over mainstream TV. Some drivers don't feel worthy of going on the internet, but the reality is if they have just a few hundred people that are their friends engaging them on social media, and you times that by the number of competitors, and other people behind that see what's being achieved, so the organisers join in, the marshals join in, then it's all one big free-for-all, if you will, on social media. And then all the event organisers have to do is collate that energy and information together, make sure as much as they can that it's positive, but then use that to sell to sponsors. That's 100% where the future of it is. We use special stages as an example. There's one thing I'll come on to as a point, which I'm really interested in, and it's not a criticism of special stage because I like everything those guys do, but I'm a bit stuck now of thinking that I'm not so keen on live video anymore. I think live video, when you're waiting a minute or more between cars arriving and somebody's trying to talk for an hour between cars, it's painful for me to watch. So I've started to go full circle now and think that rally reports are probably where it needs to be, that a good quality summary of a rally report, especially if it can be done in a timely fashion. So if you could do a rally report after 2 hours of competition because you've collated the highlights from the stages, then that's what I want to see. I want to see a highlight show, but I want to see it 2 hours after the first stage. And that's highly possible, and that's where the future lies for me.
Kev, I cannot agree more. I've been saying that for years, and it's really good. You're the first person that's come out and said that I know, because I feel justified. Um, so I think it would be better for the promoters if they could put a package together and our highlights every night, the best of the day at 7 o'clock at night or something like that. When folk are home from work as well, and they'll get more viewers.
I think professionally, it's going to have to go that way because people can do that live stuff on their phone. So, and there's no barrier really from a quality point of view. So you can do it on your phone, you can stream it live. There's nothing to stop you doing it on Facebook, whatever. Build your own, anybody can do it. The highlight show is actually a bit trickier to do. You've got to know what you're talking about. You're looking for action, you're looking for snippets. I think it takes real professionals to put a show together and tell a story. But ERC used to do it. In fact, still do it. ERC's main content is a 30-minute program at the end of every day. So, yeah, they can go live when they want, but actually it's the show that's really important. And that way, when I often hear people saying, oh, it's nice to cover the guys further down the field, and it is, but if you're, and I've done this when I was doing Peugeot Challenge, I covered everybody that was in my championship. But in all honesty, I used to speed up the last 3 or 4. So I'd literally, in the edit, speed it up. But I'd also, so what I was doing, I will cover the lower runners as long as they're looking fast, they're doing something, there's something visually stimulating. What you can't allow yourself to do is be sat there filming on a corner, waiting for the last 10 cars to go around the corner, when, in all honesty, they're not giving you anything as a show. They're not driving fast. The cars are just the same as every other car you've seen. They're offering you nothing. And they may well be doing their first ever rally, hence they're driving slowly. Do you know, whatever. They might be suffering a mechanical problem and we don't know about it and they're just limping through the stage. But just including that footage is detracting from everything else. Whereas if you were putting a highlight show together and car 157 is driving the doors off it because he's putting in a great effort, then brilliant. If somebody's got a mechanical problem or they've a backstory or they happen to be, 17-year-old on the first event, they're 9 years old and doing the last event, then you can collate that into a story and it's interesting. But just sitting on a corner waiting for every single car to go around, that's not a show. And
I agree. I do agree, Kev. I think there's different ways to look at it. If you look at the special stage footage, which I'm going to say, and I did, to be honest with you, I've never really watched a lot of special stage. But I watched REC and I actually congratulated Wayne Goldring. I messaged him and congratulated him. It was fantastic. This guy at number 141, right? He's maybe tootling around in an old Skoda or something, right? That's a potential 30, 40 views right away. His friends, his family. It depends if you're wanting the numbers or I mean that was obviously popular. That event was popular right through the field. So some people maybe don't mind that minute wait, and that becomes it becomes imperative. It becomes imperative. You've got a fantastic commentator that can keep it going and keep you interested as a fan.
Yeah. There's a mixture of things. They set a new benchmark for live footage, in my view, because they were using multi-cameras, box-in-box action, mixing interviews at the end of stages, along with cars driving round. It's the stuff where it's just the car driving round that's at its day from my point of view. And I actually think it's a disservice to events. So, for me, get back to, I know this because I've looked at stats. So if you look at highlight show reels that are happening on the internet, and there's some good people around doing really fantastic stuff now, and it might come 1 day, 2 days after the rally, but you look at some of those highlight event reels, I don't want to name anybody, but I saw one coming back from Crysdale, brilliant little video, clearly been there in the toughest of conditions, because it was one shot into another, and they were all super exciting and the conditions were fantastic. It's like, what a nice video to watch. But you couldn't have watched that live. It would have been painful. A car was only coming every 15 minutes and the guy shooting it didn't have anybody to do commentary. So, but yet he's got literally hundreds of thousands of views on a piece of storytelling that is great. So, you know, for me, we need more summaries of events rather than highlight show reels. That's got to be the future for the professionals amongst us. We'll get more views that way. And to me, I'll just give a quick nod out there to Dirtfish and what Colin's doing. They're trying their best to do that now, you know, to be there, to have mobile phone footage that they're doing in the moment because they happen to be at the crash scene of an accident. So that, you know, Colin's team is trying their best to do WRC the way that you'd want to do it. You know, that you I can see some resistance to that, but you know,
I'm thinking of when Solberg crashed last year and he was in tears. Dirtfish got a lot of bad press because it stuck a microphone in his face, and that's what I thought of that instantly. You know, of course, as somebody that's in the media, they want to do that though, and I understand that anybody would, you know, get a story. But yeah, I've got to be honest with you, I don't see much of Dirtfish. I don't really see any of their videos. But I absolutely agree with you 100% about the highlights. I think if you could, the problem is, see, like, say, the RAC rally, you're talking about every man with a camera. The RAC rally, you could say that the official was special stage, but there was maybe 150 other videos up there. And I think folk just got tired of watching all the videos, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that brings me to a good point, which is slightly different to the media itself, but what it is what's the best thing that happened on that rally, and probably it was the Perez Stratos, in that itself, on whoever's camera, phone, you know, broadcast camera, was always going to look phenomenal. So for rallying, that opportunity to be able to film a car, it reminded me so much of Andy Burton's car, that just to be around it, to share it, makes people feel passionate about it. They want to share it. The clicks that car has attracted is phenomenal. And that to bring it full circle in what we're talking about there is, that's anybody, isn't it? That's any kids outside school filming it going past their school on the road section. It's the broadcast cameras at the highest quality that's going to look great on BBC, as it did get some coverage on their local networks. So, you know, a brilliant thing for rallying. And the interesting part about that is it was the car that made it. The sound of the engine. But, you know, it wasn't the how good are you with your mobile phone or how great is your camera. It was the actual content. So realistically, content is king. And that's what I meant by not just filming people going around corners, but actually content is king. Look for the magic. With that, what can... maybe there's somebody watching this that is thinking of getting interested. I mean, I have lots of friends who want to do more filming, who go out with their latest mobile phones, some of them semi-professional cameras, in my case, real professional cameras. What tips would we give for people that either want to get into the sport, or if we were sharing some of our recommendations for event organisers, what is it that we would say? And I've definitely got some things that I'd say to event organisers. So anything you'd say, Bob, to either how do we help people get involved?
It's very difficult because you're kind of chained up by the MSUK's rules. Now, we're talking about the being accredited earlier. For example, Kev, I think there's now is it one accredited photographer in the whole of Scotland, right, for rallying. I'm sure it's one. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but there was a few, but they've all left. And the reason for that is you're tied to a corner, right? You go to a corner, you've got to okay with them, they'll okay it, and it might not be a very good corner, maybe a terrible light, and then 10 spectators walk past you, go to another bend, any bend you want. I think for a lot of people, it's worthy of having accreditation to do single venue events where you can't really get in or the spectating's not very good.
You're right, that system doesn't work. It doesn't set out what it tries to achieve, more safety and control of the people that are involved with media. It actually doesn't do anything. So to a degree, what it's trying to do is say, well, if the official photographer and the official videographer is stood on this place, that will stop everybody else that wants to do this from doing it, and therefore we can control those people with tabards on, because we all know those people with tabards are really difficult and they're suicidal and they're all bad news. That's the terrible way to go around treating the media, because the people who are conscientious will try and sign on, and then you make them more amateurish because you control what they do. And then the people that are really the ones that you would want to control are going to go underneath the radar. You've effectively made them illegal, because they're never going to sign on and join the controlled unit. They're always going to go AWOL, under the radar, and join in with the spectators. And these days, as we pointed out at the beginning, just with their mobile phones, they can get better coverage than the professional or semi-professional people who have signed on. So I've got a bit of a solution for that, but let's be real with the org.
I was going to ask you, Kev, what is your thoughts on that then? You know.
Well, I've got a recommendation I would make if the MSA are watching this, is if there's some benefit to having a tabard, because you get more freedom, you get more respected by the event organisers, you're appreciated for your professionalism, so you're treated a certain way when you sign on, you get more information, and they're encouraging because they know that you're given a privileged position. As such, you're treated as a VIP. That's exactly, if you get a tabard in the ERC, that's how they treat you. We've had personal conversations. I've had many tabards in the time. We paid £15,000 for one tabard to be working professionally at the Le Mans 24-hour race. So from that point of view, it's a really expensive procedure to get rights to film and to wear your tabard. But then all of a sudden you're in the pit lane, they treat you like a prince, a king, you know, can we help you? Would you like a drink? Is there anything we can do for you? Because they want you to have the best experience, because they want a good promotion of their event. So if event organisers treat you as though, right, you've come to sign on, I'm now going to tell you what you can't do. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you better not do this. If you do anything wrong, we're going to blackball you. I've seen this happen. So we don't like him because this person is in competition. Let's blackball him. He can't sign on anymore. So all that nonsense that goes on, the controlling in a negative way, it is really, really bad for the sport. Because whilst you're bickering about all that, somebody on their mobile phone is getting that crash, is getting the argument, is getting a wild horse running away in a field because of noisy rally cars just backfired. They're filming everything you don't want to film with their mobile phones. So your only hope is the people with tabards on, you're treating them really well, and they put the graft in, the effort, the creativity, and they promote your event in a really, really positive light. And this is one subject that you probably won't agree with, but if I was buying a media tabard and I was being treated well, I don't mind paying for that privilege. Because if I'm a professional and I get treated well, and you get easier access into the stage, easier access to leave the stage, you're helped by the organisers, you're seen as a valuable part of the organising team, then I'll pay for that privilege. I'll actually help the organisers by paying to do that, because it's worth it to me, because I get the advantages. Might be free food, whatever it is, but you're treated like a VIP, so therefore I will pay for it. If you just punish people, make them sign on, and they don't pay for that tabard, or even worse, you charge them, but you still treat them bad, what's the incentive for them to sign on for that tabard? There's none. And so that makes sense. But at club level, I think event organisers have started to think that the control system of tabards is in order to punish people, not to encourage them. So that's my view.
Well, nobody's, certainly no official's going to admit that one, Kev, is it?
Well, you know, we'd hope not. And I'm not saying that there's good reasons, if you're a journalist, that you might be, that the event organisers may well want to pay you to be there to cover their event. So if you've got a worthy publication and they want to feature in your publication, of course they're going to make that tabard easier for you to wear. But when you've got it, wouldn't it be nice if you put a tabard on and people respected you because you've got it on? And I can tell you that's not what happens now. You know, it used to be.
Yeah, I can only agree again. listen, it's like every walk of life, isn't it? If you could just treat people nicer, you know, you're going to get a better response for everything you do in life, you know. And media is the very same. But back to your original question, right now, I would not encourage anybody to get accreditation until things change. And if you're seeing a change, well, I hope so.
Yeah, well, let's hope so with event organisers. I think everybody is coming on board. Some event organisers are doing exceptional work. A quick shout out to the organisers and the media team behind Grisdale. Not only did they deal with the difficulty of having to abandon the event, I guess as good as they could do, but the pre-event to gather people together to support the event, I thought was done so well with really good humour. A really well-balanced effort of asking people and moving their entries around to allow enough people to enter to actually make that event run. A real nice, flexible, good understanding of how to use social media in a positive, because they basically, by humour and banter, they corralled another 10 or so entries to be able to make that event run. So they use social media in a really good way. Way too often, event organisers will put something on that's just bad news. And a cancellation of an event close to us lately was a good example of that. The organisers put out a bulletin that was very factual, but people they saw the worst in it and took only the worst from the press release, and there was no return back from it. So now everybody thinks that event's efforts were a failure. And that's a shame, but because it was classed as a cancellation in the first place. So again, we try not to be too personal with anybody, but that is now becoming a very difficult, the whole bandwagon has got on board with rallying's being cancelled. That could have been a postponement, it could have been a re-evaluation, it could have been anything but that word. So
that takes us to a different agenda altogether, and that's clubs. You're talking about a media person in a club, an event media person, and this one maybe we could do this the next time. Let's talk about clubs. I've got a lot to say about car clubs, but clubs are a lot of members in clubs are getting a lot older. They don't understand social media, and that's a problem as far as the media is concerned as well.
Yeah, and do you know what? I've come on to this. You asked me at the beginning why we got this podcast together. One of the key things that happened lately with being with an organising team and an event, and two of the team said to me, "We don't look at Facebook." And so how can I see the video that you've done? Because I'm not on Facebook, and they refuse to be on Facebook. And therefore it's like, yeah, Facebook has so many great advantages, but my son refuses to be on Facebook because he's TikTok. And there's definitely an older generation that are unwilling to sign up for a program to watch a video. So it's reminding me that YouTube does have a place because it is free to access. And, not everybody is on, you do have to cater for everybody. We've had a good talk about that. I think hopefully if anybody's watching this and they're event organisers, they could see that that maybe there's a lot of people around that do professional, semi-professional work like us that are willing to work with event organisers, more than willing to try and support and do the right thing. And now I'm definitely going to name drop East Riding Stages and the event that I'm close to there, because I like the organising team and I think what they do is really good. I've got involved with them. And what we did last year as an event, by trying to encourage people to do media, and anybody that came to us that was like, I'm local, is there any chance I could take some photos? Yeah, not only is there any chance you can come, but will you come down to the pre-press day and will you take some shots? And they were like, yeah, God, that'd be amazing. So we helped quite a few people that come into the sport that were that knew about what we were doing in marketing, that just approached us and said, I don't know anything about rallying, but it seems interesting what you're doing in our town centre. What do I have to do to get involved? Open arms, come on, get involved and share it with your people. And the local social media group for that town centre sent a photographer along there, thought it was brilliant, great photography opportunity. And those people would not have got into a traditional events media lineup. and the control you would have had to do. They knew nothing about rallying. They didn't know where to stand, how to behave, anything. As soon as they came to me in the morning as media, absolutely, follow me, this is what we do. Stay behind there, just shout, anything you want, come and, I know I'm talking on a microphone, I know, and I'll look a bit busy, but I'm not too busy to help you. Just anything you want, come and do it. And I make really good friends with a couple of people on that event. And that's the sort of approach that I think we should do. As far as the event are concerned, we also had mainly with Cat Lund, but we also had like a press person who took that attitude. This is what the sponsor wants to communicate. This is our strapline. This is the message. We want to be, as an event, considered to be the equivalent to Ypres Rally in England. And that message went out with everybody, including yourself, that was invited along. And, you know, I came for a beer. It's the first time I met you. And that's the same thing, that we were going out of our way to make everybody feel welcome. And I know that's not unique, but it should be encouraged. And other event organisers are doing it 100%. And all I'm saying there is, if you're doing it, people like us really appreciate when you do it. And you get any degree of support that you give media people, media savvy people, you get it back tenfold. Because, you know, we you feel so good when you're welcomed and you're a photographer. You just give your photography away. You know, that type of thing.
Kev, do you think there's a kind of apathy when it comes to some organisers? They run their event and that's enough for them. They've got their 90 entries and that's enough. And they're happy with that, rightly or wrongly, they're happy with that. And they're not fussy for contacting the local press and journal or whatever to come along and watch their event and, you know, write about it. They're just happy to get the entries, make sure everything's safe, which is fine. But we could do more. I guess it depends on what you're wanting to do with your particular event. I imagine East Ridings, for example, are wanting their event to grow bigger and bigger. Who knows, ERC one day, I'd imagine it's next to a port, the ideal. So I could understand them trying to grow it through the media. Whereas some long established events are just maybe happy to just, we've got our entries. You know, a safe day is a good day.
They're too busy running the event to be able to start looking after media. So why would they create more work for themselves? I guess all I'm trying to say is, like everything in motor clubs, and this is what we're touching on, is there's a whole groundswell of people that like motorsport, that capture images on phones, you know, that are interested in doing photography, and they're the type of people that you need to help you organise the event, let alone take photos. So why would you disencourage anybody that's coming? You know, if a little kid turns up and gets like my son is a good story, on the last rally was using my professional equipment to take some photos, and he just stood in the pit, but a car had crashed and it was on its roof. Big dramatic photo, and he said, "Oh, what should I do? Take some photos." You've got an opportunity to take some photos. Everybody else was. The driver was none too happy and ended up coming into the pits and then swearing at a 14-year-old for, "Get that effing camera out of my face, don't take any shots." Now, I told my son to take the shots, but he's only 14. He looks older, but he's only 14. Cat Lund, being my co-driver at the time, heard this story and reported him to the clerk of course. So there being an appalling behaviour. I then had to intervene a little bit, saying, look, he had just crashed his car. He could well have been concussed. Who's to say that's natural behaviour? But having a camera there was difficult for him to deal with. I'm not too bothered that he swore at my son. But you do start to understand that cameras can be a really positive thing because young kids are getting involved. That, you know, not everybody's going to like a camera being there, but it's no way to deal with it by being aggressive towards it, whether that's an organiser or a driver or whatever. It's just there. You know, the flip side of that is John Stone, who's brilliant, you know, for lots of reasons. On the front of his car has a little, barcode, that if you go to the front of his car and hold your phone out, you get instant rally results. Genius. Do you know, and my son went up to it, cool as car, you know, doing the rally, he's leading the rally, you're going up to his car, he's encouraging you to be there, saying hello to everybody, you go put your phone near his car, it gives you instant results. How cool is that? A car that gives you results. You know, so like on one level, people, yeah, the person having a hard time is going to have to deal with the media, and he didn't deal with it too well. But that's like a rally organizer that's just too busy to get involved with you, and they don't deal with it too well. The whole thing's just not right for them. Meanwhile, John Stone is doing something exceptional for the sport, and a real ambassador for the sport, and he's probably going to bring on board the next generation of people that will help our sport continue. That other stuff is just disencouraging people to get involved in the sport. And I'm not having a go at the driver. Like I say, it could have been concussed. Might not be his personality. He didn't want a camera in his face, fair enough. But it just goes to show that's the same of how we treated with those cameras in your hand, with people with the phone. You know, and for me, it's like embrace it and good things will come out of it. You know, and that's not to give you a job. We know there probably is people watching this thinking we're talking nonsense, we're too busy, what are you two on about? Well, I've just tried to make it really clear. If you want to bring the next generation of people into your sport, at every level you have to be opening and welcoming. And media is the way to do that now. It's on everybody's phone, it's what everybody's looking at, everybody wants a selfie. Another nice example of this, in Eeps, 2 years ago, Oit Tanak's doing the rally. At the end of the rally, we happen to be stopping in the same hotel as him. My son realises it's Oit Tanak. He says to me, I look, oh yeah, it's Hyundai team. They're doing a debriefing. It's after the rally. I said, go up and ask him for a selfie. And even I'm a bit nervous, thinking he's not on duty now. You know, he ain't in overalls. We just happen to be in the same hotel. And he went, oh yeah, being naive enough at 12, 13, that he was confident enough that he'd get a selfie. So he went up to say something. And I had that sudden horror of what if he turns him down? If he turns him down, I'm going to be so embarrassed for him. He's never going to ask for another selfie off a rally driver again. And this is going to be crushing. I'll be disappointed in a world champion that's turned my son down. You know, on this occasion, he's not being mobbed by anybody. So I'm just praying he's going to do the right thing. So I watch him walk over and he looks at him and says, I'm very sorry, I've got a team meeting. So I'm thinking, well, at least he's dealing with it properly. I've got a team meeting. I've got to go into this meeting. But if you're still here when I come out, I'll do a selfie with you. So I thought, well, at least he did the right thing. You know, he got out of it okay. We hung around a little bit. We were out doing something. We came back. They're still in the team meeting. It's an hour later. It's coming to the end. So I could see it coming to the end. So Zach stood outside waiting. Sure enough, I recognised him. Went over, said, we'll do the selfie. Do you want to come in? This is my co-driver. This is a team manager. Introduced him to everybody. It was amazing. And a really touching, nice thing to do. And that side of it, I think for me, is like, if we expect that of our world champions, then that should filter right down for everybody in the sport. So if you are doing a club rally and you're running, you know, last car on the road and you have a puncture or unfortunately crash your car, you should still think like Oit Tanak, because Oit could have easily said, I'm busy, I don't need to be dealing with kids, I'm trying to win a world championship, I'm having a debriefing, I'm probably getting a bollocking off the team manager. Do you know, the last thing I need to be doing is PR, but he did it. So if there's a lesson in that, it's important. When you're nice, it's important, and that's how we'll get more people back into sports. Yeah.
Just as a very quick caveat, I would like to once again say that I do believe that, you know, I doffed my cap to organising clubs. I know I've said a few things about, you know, some organisers, but they do a great job, a thankless job, and thank you, and keep doing it, you know, please. So.
Yeah, no, Bob, that's both of us. We're both organising events. I've done championships, you have as well. You know, none of us are perfect, and I want to, 100% I want to help. So none of this is criticism. It's just trying to find a way to be more inclusive, from my point of view.
Absolutely. Everyone's a winner if it's done right, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, Kev, we'll do this again another time. We'll talk about clubs, hopefully, because that's
lovely.
I'd really like to get my teeth into that, to be honest with you. Got a lot of opinion on that one, so. Okay.
Right. Hopefully we'll cover this again
in
another 12 months. But,
yeah.
Thanks for doing it, Bob.
You're absolutely welcome. Thanks for inviting me, Kev. Thank you very much.